Hello, I'm just putting away the scraps from my Ontario travel journal that I made for my cousin-in-law, Burl. And I thought, well, instead of just trying to find a place for all these little scraps, why don't I put them in my cluster book? So I've showed you this a few times. I did a whole video just of a flip through of it. But I took a couple of clusters out of it for Burl's journal, so I thought that I would go through, and here's where I've already started, and fill in the empty spots. So here was an empty spot, and I put down this piece of paper bag that was just in my scrap drawer. This is an offcut from Burl's journal, and so is this. So I just did that much there so far. I think I'm going to go through the book and do all the background stuff first, and then I'll come back if the video doesn't go too long. I may come back and put some more elements. So there's one that one of the first times I just tore it right out with the lined paper and all. And then I realized that I didn't have to do that. I can get these off fairly easily. Like, they're put on with just a dab of glue stick. They're not completely glued down. So I can gingerly get them up and then glue that back down to the page I'm using, and then I can put a new one here. Because all I do is just literally like a swipe, just enough to hold it in place. I suppose if you came to this book in 10 years and it had been sitting in a dry location, they might all just be loose. And then the other thing that I have discovered is I do have some repositionable glue stick, which I may use on them in the future. So these are some of the ones that are done. I don't usually put them on both sides. You can see on this one where I've torn a couple out. There, something was stuck there. But I tore one out here and I've already replaced it. You can see that this one looks a little different than the ones on the rest of the page. And then there's another set of 6. Those ones are really pretty. And then I kind of do them by theme. Use up the scraps. Like this was all from the same piece of paper, obviously. This, I think it's either corrugated steel or something like that. So I just use up my scraps, and that's a nice page edger. And then some of them were sitting kind of plain for a while, and then I went back and added stuff to them. You could always add stuff at the time to suit the journal. And there's 3 larger ones. Some dragonfly with pink. These ones could use a little color, but you never know. You might want something that's just all beige in some cases. And sometimes when I tear them out, I change the way the edges are. Like I might take my ripple scissors to them or something. So that's why I just left these square for now. At least that piece of cardstock is used up, right? So then maybe later when I rip it out, I'll decal the edge with my scissors. Here's where I tore one out. I tore another one like this. I tore out and cut it in half for Burl's journal. So I glued the other half back in, and I glued up a piece of just a piece of paper bag up top here. So actually I could add something to that. I've got this scalloped paper that would kind of be in the same category as these other things. So I'll just ink the edge of that because I know I wouldn't want it left plain. A lot of these I haven't inked all the little parts, but it's hard to ink them afterwards. So I'm gonna glue that, grab myself a clean new glue stick. I'm gonna stick that up top here. And then I can use like a strip of this coffee dyed paper that has the sort of a lattice look to it. I'll do a piece about that long. I'm gonna have to start just having my ink over by the television and just inking little bits and pieces while I watch TV. It's a no thinking kind of thing that you can do. Excuse me, I've been holding that one in. I think I'm going to stick this on here. It's got a little bit of pink on it. It says such a lovely day. And that just uses it up. There's my other piece of that. I have a word that works here. Maybe that will work. Natural. And it just uses it up. Because you get them in a bin and they get all, I don't have them sorted all the time. I've got a couple of little boxes with lids that I keep things like this in, and they're just sort of thrown in there. So you kind of lose track of what you have sometimes. And if you just can do a quick flip through and find something that suits your journal, then that's good. I think next thing I'm going to do today is decorate a few more artist trading cards. I have been doing some swaps with those, so I'd like to make some more. Might even come up with a different sort of theme. Now this has some green in the background on these blacks, and I've got this green frame that I struggle to find a way to use it. So I think what I'm going to do is just cut it into 4 pieces and add it to these clusters just to get it out of my bin. I'll put this down here. And probably when I use this, I will try to keep that little barcode thing. I just like to try to pick up the colors that are in the different elements of the cluster. So they're not all going to get a piece of this, but 4 of them will. And I'm fine with that. I just thought, because there wasn't that much left, like I probably won't use these in the cluster book. I'll put them back with my ribbon or ruffles. But all these other little bits that don't really have their own home, I have a bin for covered paper clips, that's what that is. But all these other little bits, I can just use them up rather than try to find a place to put them. Those ones are brighter than I usually do, but I had the papers and I wanted to use them up. Is there something I could add to these? Maybe a little bit of this map. Nothing else is inked, but I'm going to ink this, especially because it has these white edges. And I can maybe just lift this up, put that down, and then re-glue that. It's pretty easy to manipulate. I do have more of the map. Map is something that I have a drawer for, so I can just stick some of this into my drawer. I do have one more page of it too in that book. But I think what I'm going to do just to store it in my drawer is cut it in half like that. I'm never going to use, well, I shouldn't say never, but I'm not likely going to use that full-sized piece. So just cutting it in half like that and putting it in my map section. So in this blue drawer, I have all my map pieces that are already pieces. Like I still have map books that aren't deconstructed, but everything from world maps, local maps, Ontario provincial park maps, just little Like this is just almost all plain paper, but it is off of a map. That's why it's in there. So I could just as easily too, just tear that off and put that in my neutrals. And then this is still, I would keep this in with the maps because that has like a legend and how to adjoin the sheets to make the map one big map, that kind of thing. So I'll just throw that in there. That's just like a landscape drawing out of a magazine that's in with the maps. So that's how I sort things. And then there are a couple of actual maps down in there too. That drawer has room for a lot more. So maybe one of these days I'll do some deconstructing of some maps. But I'll use these little pieces up. Since I have one there, I'll do the coordinating tag. I'll add, or coordinating cluster, I'll also add some, just so that if I'm doing a journal that they work in, I'll probably want them both to be similar. So I'll put a little bit of this in the same sort of position as the other one. I'll try to lift this sentiment up, stick that under, and then re-glue that. And those ones are different, but I could do that up here too. Do one there and one there. So you don't have to do it all at one time, although if you're in the groove, you kind of usually want to keep going at it. But if you get interrupted on something like this, it's okay. You can come back and finish them later. And you might end up, you would likely end up with something totally different doing it that way than you would have if you did it all at once. So again, these, you can see how the glue stick does let you lift it up, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm treating it as a good thing today. I'm just going to push that up a bit further so it doesn't line up with the top of that background sheet. And then just give that another little dab of glue. I like the way these ones have the black edges partly around them. Where's that other piece? There it is. And I'm going to lift this. And I'm just going to have this sticking out the edge so I'm not gluing the entire piece. Like that. So that's 4 more little bits used up. And the other thing that I have close at hand is this little book where I've salvaged or harvested out of the music books that I'm tearing up. Little addresses and numbers and logos and little bits of music that are coming off the pieces. Like some of these, like that one probably I wouldn't save. I would just use the back side of it because there's not enough music on it to say so. But this piece is really small, so I could make this into little snippets and throw it in here rather than have it get lost in my music drawer. And then when I want to add something, like these already have music, so I won't add it to that. But what I was thinking for this was these little numbers. So these are the numbers off of the top of the pages out of the music books. And I'm just going to add that on there because I thought that that looked like it needed something. And, you know, you could want to save these to use them in a meaningful way, like if you know that someone was born in 1973 and you're doing them a journal, you could make sure that gets included, that sort of thing. But you don't have to do it that way. And this one was actually out of part of a circle punch. The other ones there are just with my 5/8 circle punch, and they just fit perfectly on that particular book. A lot of books. So I have that little book, and the only way I have it labeled is with a little piece of the music book logo, so I know what's in that book. So this whole book will be stuff like that. See, I've got a logo down here. I've got little cutouts that I thought I might be able to use, but I know specifically that these came out of the music book. Little Canada stuff. I could have used that on Burl's journal too. But you know, something like that, I see instantly that that looks good with that. I could just use it up on there, but I don't think I will today. I'm going to focus on cleaning off my desk. So I have another book like that that's all birds that I've cut out, and another one that's all flowers that I've cut out. So tiny fussy cuts. I find that's a good way to use those photo albums that you see at the thrift stores all the time. You can usually get them for just 50 cents or something. Now these are like a small masterboard that I've done instead of a cluster. And these can be cut up into tags or made into, you know, I could cut this out and make it into a cluster. I kind of want to start a whole book of just this. And take these out of here and just have it be clusters. Now I do have room for something down the side here. I could do a page edger. So I'll find a piece of something like this maybe. I'd like to use something more durable on the bottom edge if I can. That's pretty thin paper. Just so that when I tear it off, it's gonna be able to withstand that. So I'll start with this. This is stuff I used in Burl's journal. Now this is going to be too wide, so I'm gonna rip it in half is what I'm gonna do. And I'm just gonna, that'll give me another one for another page. Because this is something I got in a swap, so I don't have any more of it. So there's not much point in me saving it for another project because I wouldn't have enough to do, you know, 2 or 3 things out of it. This is what I used to back up the Hilda pictures. I'm going to go ahead and ink the edge because I know darn well that's what I would want when I go to use it. What I'll probably have is this would be on the inside of the page, and then whatever cluster I create will be hanging over this edge to hide the straight edge. And I'm going to let it overlap this thing because I'm only going to stick it down like just along this edge. Just a little bit of glue. Just enough to hold it in place until I'm ready to use it. So I'm going to do it sort of like that. And then why don't I just go ahead and add a few things to the side of it. I could probably use up quite a bit of these things because that's a pretty big project. And I'm not even worrying if these are completely glued down because I can go back and glue them down better. I might want to reposition them or add to them at the time, so I don't want to get too crazy. And I've got this little piece of the red paper left. I've got 2 little pieces of it, so I'm going to use it up too. So I'm going to do an off-center rip on this. That leaves me with a strip. And a strip. And then I will tear across the top and the bottom and ink. And that really takes care of those white spots, the ink does. Doesn't show up as much on the red side. I think it would if I used the espresso, but I'm just going to go with this for now. And again, I'm just going to kind of run it across there, not even all the way to the ends, and that way if I do want to lift it up I can at the time. And I'm just going to offset that a bit from the map piece. And then I've got another small piece of the map here that I'll want to put down here, to balance out the one at the top. And again, just a little bit of glue. And then if I had music handy, I would use it, but I don't, so that's fine. I'm going to use a little bit of this. This is the Tim Hortons cup, what I didn't use for Burl's journal. And I'm going to ink that up. I save these too for stamping. So you can ink up the whole thing and glue it down, or not glue it down, use it as a stamp, ink it up and stamp it on a blank page, and you've got lined paper. So I'll put that kind of there, just off center. And I've got a little piece of book spine too. I think I don't mind this one being a little more rustic, so I'm going to glue that down. And that may not stick very well, so I'm going to give it a little extra. It's pretty porous. Let's stick that. Actually, I'm going to stick it there. I've been seeing a lot. This one girl on one of the Facebook groups has been posting her collages, and they're very grungy and textural like that. And so I've been wanting to try that, and I can ink that a little bit, or do that at the time. I think that's going to require just a shot of tacky. It's not grabbing. But yeah, that's very interesting to me. And then what else have I got here? Just a little piece of brown paper bag that's maybe too small for a cluster base, although there's nothing wrong with doing a mini one either. But I'll put that, no, that's too close to that. I'll put it up here, maybe off to this side, because I want that edge to be a feature. And then I've got this little green leaf. I don't think that's suitable for there. Do I have words that would work? Unbelievable. Island. I've got a little postage stamp here, brown one. Now I have been using these on my ATCs, so maybe I'll save that for that. Got this little piece that is just a scrap that I can glue down there. And this little piece of brown paper bag. Just put that there. A little piece of red can go with the orange here. Another little piece of red on the other one. Actually, I'm going to turn that upside down. Another little piece of paper bag. This is kind of square for me, but I'm going with it. I'm going to turn it upside down and stick it to the back here. I'm getting there. The word real could go on here. Yellow and red. Oops. I keep hitting the top of my glue with the dauber. An ampersand. And like I said in the journal video, I got these in a swap. I hadn't used them yet, so I thought I would just use them up. And there's a little picture of bricks. Real, not perfect, because bricks often aren't perfect, and that has like a bluish tinge to it. That's why I decided to put it there. So hopefully that gives you the idea. Let's turn the page and see what else we can use up. So these look kind of empty. They've got wording on them, but they still look like they're missing something, don't they? I don't think green would be good. Maybe just some of these little bits of brown paper. And I could go into my garbage can too. Lord knows there's lots in there. So that's a different tone. I should put that completely on top of the white so that you can see the whole thing. And I've got more of this. So rather than hoard it, which I'm kind of want to do because I love this paper and I don't know where to get more, I got it at the Mission Thrift, and I'm pretty sure it's packaging paper. So I could just keep buying stuff on Amazon and see if I get any. But these are just literally waiting to be either tossed in the garbage can or used, so I'm opting to use them. That one would have maybe been a better color for that. Kind of grayish. So that was just a piece of corrugated cardboard that's been, where the top's been torn off. You can just use anything, literally anything. Tiny little strip of music. This one doesn't have music yet, so we'll put that there. A little sliver of coffee dyed. It has a ripple edge, so that can go maybe like here. I don't mind those two straight. Putting the blue side up, that won't work. Another little bit of map. Do I need more map over here? No, I think that's good. And I see that one's pretty loose. These definitely could use some more little bits. Maybe I'll use up this map on a couple of these. The other thing, you can go back with the makeup brushes and do the edges of these papers, like just sort of a shading, more than like an inking that looks like a burnt edge. But it's a good way to clean up your desk and think about what your next project might be. Like Julie, from one of the YouTubers that I watch is Julie, and I can never remember her YouTube channel, but she says use it up or throw it out, I think is her thing that she says. Music page edge. These ones look pretty layered already. Let's find some that need it worse. This has some spots, but I don't have anything that'll go great with blue right at hand. These ones could use some color, like I said before. Let's use this guy. I'm thinking of that squarish one up top there. Cover up receiver general and leave the French part. Oops. That. And then this bee thing, that's kind of big, unless I do something like this. part of the hexagon edge there. And that can fit there nicely. And then the postcard one could go here. I'm going to get rid of the hexagon edge on this one, just because it's a little bit wide. Leave the end ones. It's not adding color, but it's just adding another layer. I don't want to be able to read that book page. It's not ever, hardly ever my intent to be able to read that. And then this, I'm going to leave that shape. It's a very odd shape. That's okay. It's a B. Bee journal is certainly a theme that is one of my next journals. And these little bits are small enough that I don't mind putting them in the bin. Do I have anything else bee related? I don't think so, not handy. Got a little piece of this map. I can just go there. Maybe there. Got this little tag. It's very roughly cut. One of my earlier fussy cuts, I think. Actually, I think I'm going to put this up here. This big cluster has space for it. And I'm going to put it a little on an angle. I see that done a lot and sort of appeals to me. That's good, that's used. I've got the word good, unbelievable, and natural that I can work in somewhere. Tiny little bit of corrugated paper. It can go here. If I can get it unstuck from my fingers. Grab my damp rag and clean them up a bit. Found a place to hang it on my cart, so it's within reach. It's not doing the job. It's just water on it, no glue. It just doesn't seem to be taking the glue off this time. Sorry, I dropped it. I didn't want it sitting on my pine floor. The other thing that these could use is a little bit of black. So I've got this tiny little bit of black cardstock. Doesn't even need to be inked because it won't really show. And this might not work well, but this is how I'm going to put it down. And I can do something there. I can do something here. And I would like it maybe underneath that cart postal. I think I glued the wrong side, but I should still be able to lift this guy up. And slip that underneath. Gives it a little bit more definition. And then a couple of little squiggly black bits. So this one can go up here. I thought it could. And this one can go down here. A wider piece for that top one. We're getting there. Just a few more things. Okay, so here's where I had taken one off of here, so I glued another piece of just brown craft cardstock down. And so I don't have any more of the government checks handy out here, but that's okay. I can do something different. I'll use what I've got on my desk. So I do have a piece of that French dictionary page. I've got builder and stick and bat. So that could be used there. I'm just going to leave it square edged because I've got a square edge there. And then a little bit of this lined paper can go just in underneath that like that. And then a little piece of this map. Keep finding other little pieces of this map. I just can't seem to use it up. And I put two big pieces in the drawer. It can go like that. And then when I find a suitable word, I'll put it on there. And then I could add to these, but let's flip the page. I think we've got some other ones that are needing it worse. So these ones have 4 elements already. These ones have 3 elements already, but do I have an element that they don't have yet? Like, I've got coffee dyed. I've got some lined paper. A little bit of postage cancellation. And of course, like I said, I can dig into my actual garbage can that's just below my desk here, and I'm sure there's more postage cancellation. Use those. You know, you make decisions of what to throw away. And what to set aside, and sometimes when you're working and you're on camera, you just want to be done with that piece of paper, so you throw it in the bin. Even things like this, where it's barcodes and description of product, you can use that too on these clusters. This is a sticker, which makes it even easier. I'm not seeing anything else super interesting. Like, you could even do things like that as part of a cluster. I've certainly seen people do things that rough. Let's see how that would look. So this is where I've punched out a bunch of circles for, what do you call it, hole protectors. So if I just add a little bit right there, I can add that sort of this way, and you got some polka dots and some scallops. Adds quite a bit of interest. And that one's really interesting because it's also a half circle scallop. I just pulled it out of my garbage can, literally. You think you're done with that project that you're doing, and you're not always thinking about what else you could use it for. The reason I had punched it was because it had writing on the envelope. So that's some of the writing there. So I'll do all of these, and then we'll go on to the next page and see if I can add some more somewhere else. We can add some here. In fact, let's see what else. Let's add some red here. We've got just a bit of, I don't know if I have enough red to do all of them though. So I'll save that for something that already has something red. I'm getting really close to being cleaned up here. Some of this coffee dyed, 2 different types. And I could have saved that strip for my, where I plan to do the log cabin, but I got lots of them. The drawer is overflowing. It's hard to get into the slot right now. So this is just adding a little bit of extra texture to these. And like I said, I'd like to try to cover up the writing on those book pages. I don't like to be able to read them. Especially, like, I don't always proofread them. I could have something on there that I don't want on there at all. I'll get some more of these out because that is just amazing to me how good that looks to me. Oh, there's some blue ones too. So I was using up scraps that were on my table that day when these were created. And now I'm able to use the scraps that I created using up my scraps. It's a never-ending thing until you get right down to the tiny little bits. It's crazy. Okay, let's add the blue ones on these just for some color. So I'm just putting blue wherever there's a solid spot. And this one can go down here. This one can go down here, cover up that writing. This one can go on this one. This one can go here. And again, I might end up tearing some of them off if they're really fragile. That's what we should do is, in my Facebook groups, is we should do a cluster swap. Maybe that's what I'll propose this week. Is anyone want to do a cluster swap? Although I'm doing a bunch of ATC swaps right now. So I don't have another piece of that blue, I don't think. Maybe I do. Yeah, I do have one more piece of it that I can put on that final one. And I can switch to another color. It's not terribly important to me that I use up every little piece of this. I'm just trying to show you that you can, if you want to. I don't mind throwing a few things in the garbage because for me, it's not going in the garbage, it's going in the recycling, for one thing. It's not being thrown in the garbage. There's an envelope with a bunch of scraps in gray tones and taupes that I've got in a bag for some reason. And now here I've also got some, I don't know if this is enough to add. I could use the white side, but this is from Christmas cards. So it's like aqua, and then some snowflake punch outs in it. And it just adds really interesting texture. You might come along later and cover it up with something else, but at least for now it's getting used. That straight edge, I'm not worried because I know I'll probably put something over it. And let's go ahead and use this up. Didn't get very much onto those big ones, so let's put another piece on each one just to kind of round out that theme. Stay down here on top of the book page. And then this little piece is looks like where I was cutting out whale tail tabs. I think I used for the whale tail tabs, and then what was left over on the card I did some snowflakes because it was aqua. Now there's one that is completely blank slate. Now I usually do start with something like book page or music paper, but what's left on my desk is all pretty much plain. So I'm gonna just reach into my neutrals bat box, and there's this advertisement, double-sided advertisement out of December 1986 Christmas hymn book. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just not even gonna look. I'm gonna rip it into 6 or 7 pieces or more and just glue them down. Now, I probably should have used the other side. The other side had a picture of Rudolph. Darn, you should always look at both sides before you decide what you're going to do with it. But I'm trying to be as random as possible, knowing that this is probably going to be mostly covered in the end. I like the borders is what is attracting me to this. That's why I'm putting them kind of to the outside. And this one has a little Christmas picture there. That one's got part of a phone number. And I put this little odd shaped one here, so I'll give it one too. So that took care of another piece of something. And then I could layer some of this over top. So on the bigger one, I'll put this piece. And some of these. This was an envelope I got a swap or wishes or something, can't remember. And so it's got the Calgary, Alberta. It had pretty stamps, like 8 bird stamps on it. So I cut them off of the envelope. Normally I would save the whole envelope to make it into a journal cover, but because of those stamps being on there, I decided to cut them off, and then I had the rest of the envelope to cut up. So you'll see, I think further back here, I've even got some bases with this same envelope. Started. Just got another idea. I have another box up here with little petals for flowers. I think I'm going to stick that in that box as a possible leaf. Ink it with green and use it as a leaf. And do the same thing with this one. So it's just a box where whenever I have like a part of a circle edge or the center, here's a flower that I made out of these. This is where you do 2 whale tail tabs side by side. You get this shape. Find a loose one here. You get this shape when you put the 2 whale tail tabs side by side. Sometimes I've lined it up perfectly and sometimes I haven't, but that's what I use to make this flower. Actually, it looks better when I inked it. It looked even better. And then I put a little yellow circle in the middle. So just to have some leaf shapes would be good too. So when I see something that could work for that, I stick it in there. These are silk flower leaves that I've actually used my zigzag scissors to make it into 3. So that's that page, a little more added to it. And like I say, I don't care if I get them done. I just want to use up the scraps on my desk. So I'll just add them to these and they'll be further along and my desk will be cleaned up. And that paste was probably big enough to have used, but again, I'm just trying to use them up. Oops, I want to do that the other way. Oh no, maybe I don't. I like that sharp edge when it has the darker coffee stain on it. I'll do that again up on this one because it also has a little number in the corner and some pink bits. So I'll put that there. Where it might not be completely covered up in the future. So that's that little piece used. And I've got some more. This one is part of my crinkle paper. Put that there. And let's go ahead and use these up. So I've got 2 here. Or more. Let's cut it on, rip it on the crease. It's just the edge of the envelope. That's why my fingers get so gluey when I'm doing stuff like this. Glue goes right through to my hand. And the thing that you can also use is this to pat those down. This silicone face mask applicator, I keep mentioning. That's really getting me gluey now. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me get a few clusters further along and seeing my cluster book again. It's constantly changing, so I will show it to you from time to time. So if you have enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. There's always something going on here on this channel. I'm always making something new and exciting. Different degrees of exciting, I would say. Plus I do organizing videos for crafting mostly. And you just never know what else you're going to find. So do join me. And thank you for watching and have a great day.